So, if that fraudulent mortgage didn't land us in prison, it could ruin us financially. But there's another potential victim of this crime: the housing market itself. Because the more illicit cash is injected into the market, the more prices are inflated. Clearly, if only a handful of people did this mortgage fraud, the effect on house prices would be imperceptible. If a lot of people did it, the boost to prices would be significant. So the question is, was our experience this time a one-off? To find out, we visited another 9 of the estate agents in the centre of Ealing and spoke to the mortgage advisors they recommended. Some advisors were linked to the estate agents, others worked for separate firms. At Townends, we were also advised to break the law and fraudulently exaggerate our £30,000 income.
As long as they see an income figure that fits with their income multiples,
right,
they're not going to ask too many questions.
Right. So what do I have to write then?
We'd need to put you down at about 54 grand.
At Kinley, Folkard and Hayward, we were told lying about our income on a self-certified mortgage was our only realistic option.
Because if you don't go self-cert,
yeah,
okay, the lender will want to see your pay slips, P60, bank statements,
yeah,
and those all show 30 grand.
Yeah.
With a self-certified mortgage, you pay a higher interest rate, but those troublesome income checks aren't made.
They are saying, okay, well, we accept whatever you put down on the application form, we accept, and we don't want to see any proof of it.
Right. Okay. So what would I have to put down on the income thing?
What is it? 185.
Yeah.
Divide that by 3.5. You'd have to find around about 53 grand.
53 grand. Okay.
At Bairstow Eves Countrywide, Britain's biggest estate agency group, when the advisor told us we'd have to boost our income to £53,500, we said we were concerned.
Yeah, I mean, I find the whole self-certificate thing uncomfortable. Just, you know, the idea that I'm meant to essentially lie on my form is difficult.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, don't get me wrong, we can send the stuff up there and we can gloss it up to make, you know, at the end of the day it's not guaranteed, but we can gloss it up to make sure, you know, it's going to look very easy, you know, look very convincing.
And if we weren't prepared to lie?
One other option was, have you heard of National Lottery?
Hart's advisor was disarmingly frank about what he was advising.
You'd have to state your income's 56,000. And it's not, you think it's lying.
You're joking.
It is lying, and that's what you have to do.
Advisors recommended by Barnard Marcus, JAC Strattons, Northfields, and Robertson, Smith and Kempson all took us down the self-certification route. And all offered us vastly more buying power than we could have raised with an honest mortgage application.
You would have to put down on the application form, it's 50 grand.
52,000, income's 56,000.
We'd need to put you down at about 54 grand.
When we began this investigation, we didn't know for sure if this fraud was happening at all. But of the 10 mortgage advisors we visited here in Ealing, no fewer than 9 recommended self-certified mortgages, which would require our income to be grossly exaggerated. It was a revelation which we found almost incredible. The self-certified mortgages at the heart of this fraud were originally devised for self-employed people with erratic earnings. At first, their accountants had to confirm the incomes borrowers claimed. But as competition increased, checks fell away, and now even salaried employees can get one. There are conditions. You have to put down a large deposit, and you pay a higher rate of interest, so lenders are unlikely to lose.
You get a higher income as a lender from these types of mortgages than you do from ordinary mortgages. The buyer of the house has to put down a deposit, let's say 15%. That effectively means if he can't keep up the payments and the house is repossessed, the lender can sell that house for 85% of the price the original purchaser paid and still have no loss. The original purchaser, of course, has lost his house and lost his deposit.
So, though borrowers are taking most of the risk, more and more are being persuaded to do it.
About 1 in 3 mortgages that I do nowadays are self-cert.
Really?
Yeah, I mean that's
So
the
not
only
everybody
way.
is
That's
doing
the
it.
only way. That's the only way people can get on the housing market, basically.
I've done it for myself, my personal friends. Just remember what we put on the form.
Yeah.
And just make sure the mortgage is always paid.
So you've done the self-certification route yourself, and you've never had any comebacks or anything like that?
I know it all works, so it's a walk in the park.
But may I ask how much you put down?
I've put down 100 grand. I don't know.
Sales of self-certified mortgages are growing fast. 10% of all new lending is now self-cert. The question is, how much of it is based on lies?
I've done it for myself, my personal friends.
We showed Desmond Fitzgerald how commonplace this fraud seems to have become. He believes it helps explain the house price mystery.
Over the past 2 years, most forecasters, including myself, expected the housing market at best to stabilise and more likely to fall. Instead, it's powered ahead. Now, clearly, if there is this extra flow from these fraudulent self-certified mortgages, that will push hundreds of millions of extra cash flow into the housing market. This will mean that houses become even less affordable. This will mean that more and more people, therefore, are tempted or take out these fraudulent self-certified mortgages, and that will push yet more money in the housing market. So you get this sort of self-feeding frenzy, a real bubble effect.
In such a frenzy, people like Andy Ashford end up losers.
If a lot of people do this, then that's going to be a lot more money into the property market, and that's going to push prices up.
It's awful that I'm being in order to be able to live, i.e. where I grew up.
But is it only where prices are high that the market is corrupted and borrowers are turning to fraud? What about parts of the country where prices are lower? In Manchester's popular southern suburb of Didsbury, property costs around half what you'd have to pay in Ealing. Because prices here are so much lower, you might think there'd be no need for fraud. Nonetheless, of the 7 mortgage advisors we met in Didsbury, 3 advised us to lie about our incomes to get bigger self-cert mortgages. So here too, we would have ended up with illicit extra cash to pour into the housing market. For the brokers who are advising borrowers to break the law, the consequences could be serious.
A broker, particularly if the broker is getting a commission for this, and is doing it over a number of years, repeatedly, is certainly going to go to prison, and going to go to prison measured in years, not months. A broker is regarded as in a position of trust. He has breached that trust, and what is more, the broker may be said to have invited the borrower to commit a...
Not having to prove your income, they don't want to pay it, they don't want a bank statement. The lenders have created the market.
To be honest with you, it's kind of strange because you phone up lenders and say, oh, they go, yeah, well, we don't need proof of the income. Right. But, but we don't need it. Right. You know, it's...
Lenders are pushing self-certified mortgages hard, and competition's getting fierce. Not everyone a self-certified mortgage. Most lenders demand that you put down at least 15% deposit. The ad is part of the Zurich Advice Network, a group with thousands of financial advisors across Britain and an office next to the Ritz in the heart of London.